Pals would confront Maurice Sam and ask him on their live video in the morning hours why did he hate hers. Like, guys, this question shocked all their fans including me that I even shouted Jesus. Guys, I honestly want to tell you that the final scene of a romantic movie has just wrapped. Champagne corks are popping, crew members are hugging, and everyone's ready to celebrate months of grueling work. The air should be filled with relief and joy, right? Wrong. Because in the middle of all that celebratory chaos, Pearl Watts, yes, the Pearl Watts, walked straight up to Maurice with fire in her eyes and dropped a question that would echo across every corner of the internet. Why do you speak ill about me all the time? And just like that, the champagne went flat, just hit the floor, and someone's phone camera captured the exact moment Hollywood's favorite on-screen couple became its most talked about real-life drama. Have you ever had that moment where you confronted someone and instantly regretted it, or felt so justified you'd do it again? Well, Pearl was firmly in the justified camp, and what happened next was nothing short of explosive. The tension between Pearl Watts and Maurice hadn't just materialized out of thin air on that fateful day. For anyone paying close attention, and trust me, the crew had been watching like hawks, something had been brewing for days, maybe even weeks. These two stars, who once couldn't stop laughing together between takes and were constantly spotted grabbing coffee or running lines in each other's trailers, had suddenly become strangers. They were taking breaks at completely different times, almost as if someone had handed them a schedule specifically designed to keep them apart. Eye contact. Forget about it. If Maurice entered a room, Pearl would suddenly find the craft services table absolutely fascinating. If Pearl was rehearsing a scene, Maurice would remember he had an urgent call to make. The crew whispered in corners, exchanged knowing glances, and the tension became so thick you could practically slice it with a knife. Everyone knew something was wrong, but nobody, absolutely nobody, expected Pearl to blow the lead of the whole thing in such a public, dramatic fashion. When that last romantic scene wrapped, the one where they were supposed to stare lovingly into each other's eyes and seal their on-screen love story with a kiss, the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here they were, pretending to be madly in love for the cameras while barely able to stand being in the same space. Pearl had apparently reached her breaking point. She'd been holding back, biting her tongue, trying to stay professional and get through the filming. But once that director yelled, "Cut," for the final time, something inside her snapped. Maybe it was the relief that she didn't have to pretend anymore, or maybe it was the accumulation of hurt, confusion, and anger that had been building up like a pressure cooker about to explode. Whatever it was, Pearl decided that this was the moment, right there, right then, in front of dozens of crew members and with her emotions running high, to finally demand answers from Maurice about everything she'd been hearing. The rumors had been circulating for a while, growing more vicious and specific with each passing day. Pearl had started hearing whispers that Maurice was talking about her behind her back, saying things that were not just unkind but potentially career-damaging. There were allegations about her being difficult to work with, claims about her personal life that were nobody's business, and insinuations about her professionalism that cut deep. Her relationships with other cast members were being questioned, her fan base was starting to hear these stories and some were turning against her, and her reputation, something she'd spent years carefully building, was being shredded piece by piece. The worst part. She kept hearing that the source of all this poison was Maurice, the same person who she trusted, laughed with, and created magic with on screen. The same person who fans shipped them with religiously, creating fan pages, edits, and campaigns hoping they'd get together in real life. How could someone she thought she knew do this to her? The confusion and betrayal were eating her alive. When Pearl confronted Maurice with that burning question, his reaction was almost comical in its unexpectedness. His eyes went wide, his mouth fell open slightly, and then, wait for it, he laughed. Not a cruel laugh, not a mocking laugh, but a genuinely confused, soft chuckle as if Pearl had just asked him the most absurd question in the world. "What are you talking about?" he asked, shaking his head with a bewildered smile that seemed completely authentic. He looked around as if checking whether this was some elaborate prank, maybe something for a behind-the-scenes special or a blooper reel. But Pearl's expression wasn't joking. Her jaw was set, her eyes were blazing, and her stance made it clear she wasn't there for games. Maurice's laugh died quickly as he realized the gravity of the situation. "Pearl, I haven't said anything to harm you. I don't know where you're hearing this from, but it's not true," he insisted, his voice dropping to something more serious and concerned. For a moment, you could see genuine hurt flash across his face, hurt that she would even believe such things about him. Then Pearl dropped another bomb that made Maurice's confusion deepen even further. She accused him of recording private voice notes about her, messages where he allegedly labeled her with unflattering terms and shared intimate details of their working relationship that should have stayed private. Voice notes. The modern-day evidence that could make or break someone's reputation, those casual audio messages we all send without thinking twice, suddenly weaponized and used as proof of betrayal. Maurice looked genuinely shocked, like someone had just told him his dog could speak French. Voice notes. Pearl, what voice notes? I never recorded anything about you. Who told you this? His confusion seemed so authentic that even some of the crew members watching started to wonder if there had been a massive misunderstanding. But Pearl stood her ground, armed with information that someone had fed her, believing with every fiber of her being that Maurice had betrayed their friendship and professional relationship in the most modern, documented way possible. What happened next was the twist that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. Pearl's expression shifted from accusatory anger to something more complex, a mixture of pain, realization, and perhaps a hint of regret. She took a breath and revealed something that changed the entire narrative. There was a third party involved. Someone both she and Maurice had trusted, someone who had been playing them both like puppets, twisting words, fabricating stories, and creating a conflict where none should have existed. This mysterious saboteur had taken innocent comments, spun them into vicious attacks, and fed them to Pearl as if they came directly from Maurice's mouth. They'd done the same to Maurice, planting seeds of doubt about Pearl in his mind too. It was a calculated, deliberate campaign to drive a wedge between two people whose chemistry and friendship had become too powerful, too valuable, and too threatening to certain interests. Pearl's voice cracked slightly as she explained this, the realization that she'd almost destroyed something important because she'd been manipulated hitting her hard. The emotional core of this confrontation really hit when Pearl made it crystal clear that this wasn't about hatred or wanting to attack Maurice. Her voice softened, vulnerability replacing the earlier fire, as she emphasized that she cared about him. She cared deeply, actually. They'd spent months working closely together, sharing stories during long shooting days, supporting each other through difficult scenes, and building what she thought was a genuine friendship beyond the professional facade. She never intended to hurt him with this confrontation, but she also couldn't keep carrying the weight of believing he'd betrayed her. I needed to know, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I needed to hear it from you because if we can't be honest with each other after everything we've been through, then what was the point of any of it? The raw emotion in her words struck everyone present, transforming what could have been a simple workplace drama into something far more human and heartbreaking. Pearl went deeper into explaining the motivation behind this elaborate sabotage, and honestly, it sounded like something straight out of a soap opera, except it was all too real. The third party, this snake in the grass who'd been smiling in their faces while stabbing them in the back, wanted them to fall apart specifically because of their chemistry. Think about it, Pearl and Maurice had that rare, electric connection that audiences live for. Their scenes together didn't just work, they sparkled. Fans were obsessed, creating ship names, writing fan fiction, and basically demanding they get together in real life. Their social media interactions sent people into meltdowns. Every interview where they laughed together or showed genuine affection generated millions of views. That kind of attention is powerful, it's valuable, and it apparently made someone very nervous. Maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was concern about being overshadowed, or maybe it was strategic, keeping them apart meant controlling the narrative, the opportunities, and the spotlight. Whatever the reason, someone had decided that Pearl and Maurice together were too much of a threat and had actively worked to destroy what they'd built. Maurice's face during this revelation was a study in processing trauma in real time. You could literally see the wheels turning in his head as he started connecting dots he hadn't even known were there. Small incidents that he'd brushed off suddenly took on new meaning. That time someone had casually mentioned Pearl seemed annoyed with him when he'd noticed no such thing. Those warnings from a concerned friend about Pearl supposedly talking behind his back, which had seemed odd at the time but he'd dismissed. The subtle comments designed to plan doubt, the manufactured conflicts, the convenient misunderstandings, they all started clicking into place like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle revealing a picture he really didn't want to see. His expression shifted from confusion to anger to something like grief as he realized how thoroughly they'd both been played. I should have known, he muttered, more to himself than to Pearl. I should have trusted my instincts. The realization that he'd allowed someone to manipulate him into doubting someone he cared about clearly cut deep. Then Pearl delivered the line that would haunt Maurice for days and probably keep him up at night questioning everything. She looked him straight in the eye and said, "If you believe them that easily, maybe you never trusted me in the first place." Ouch. Just ouch. That's the kind of statement that hits you right in the chest and makes you question every decision you've ever made. It wasn't just an accusation, it was a mirror held up showing Maurice his own doubts and insecurities. Because the thing is, if their friendship and professional relationship had been built on solid trust, wouldn't he have come to her directly when he had things instead of avoiding her? Wouldn't he have demanded proof instead of accepting rumors as truth? Pearl's words exposed the painful reality. Despite their chemistry and connection, there had been cracks in the foundation that made them vulnerable to manipulation. Maurice looked absolutely stricken, unable to formulate a response because deep down, he knew she had a point. Trust isn't just about believing someone when everything's perfect, it's about choosing to believe them even when someone's whispering doubts in your ear. Now here's where the story takes a turn from private drama to public spectacle, because of course someone recorded the confrontation. In our modern age where everyone has a phone in their pocket and the line between private and public has been obliterated, is anyone really surprised? An audio clip of Pearl and Maurice's intense exchange found its way onto the internet faster than you can say, viral moment. The audio was raw, emotional, and absolutely riveting. You could hear the pain in Pearl's voice, the shock in Maurice's responses, and the genuine emotion that made this so much more than just celebrity gossip. Within hours, it had spread across every social media platform imaginable. Twitter was having a meltdown, TikTok was creating reaction videos, Instagram was filled with commentary, and YouTube channels were dedicating entire episodes to analyzing every word, every pause, every inflection. The internet did what the internet does best. It took a private moment of pain and turned it into public entertainment, with everyone suddenly becoming an expert on their relationship and what really happened. The fan response was swift, passionate, and predictably divided. Team Pearl emerged almost immediately, with supporters creating hashtags defending her right to confront Maurice and praising her courage for demanding answers instead of suffering in silence. They analyzed every word she'd said, found evidence in past interviews that supported her version of events, and went on digital crusades to defend her honor. Meanwhile, Team Maurice formed their own battalion, arguing that he'd been blindsided and unfairly accused, that his confused reaction proved his innocence, and that Pearl should have handled this privately instead of creating a scene. The debates were fierce, with people arguing in comment sections like their lives depended on it. There were video essays, thread after thread of analysis, and even some amateur detectives trying to figure out the identity of the mysterious third party who'd caused all this chaos. Social media became a battleground where friendships were tested based on which side you chose, because apparently, we can't just acknowledge that both people were victims of manipulation without picking teams. Pearl's Instagram post following the confrontation sent the internet into another frenzy of speculation and interpretation. She shared a simple but loaded statement: "Sometimes the real enemy is the one smiling beside you." The post featured a moody black and white photo of her looking contemplative, and the caption was vague enough to fool endless theories while specific enough to make it clear she was talking about their situation. Was she referring to the third party? Was she throwing shade at Maurice for not trusting her? Was this a general life lesson? The comments section exploded with thousands of people offering support, demanding answers, sharing their own betrayal stories, and trying to decode hidden meanings that might not even exist. Some fans started scrutinizing every person who'd been photographed with Pearl and Maurice, creating lists of suspects like they were solving a murder mystery. The post got millions of likes, was shared across every platform, and became one of those cultural moments where even people who'd never heard of Pearl Watts were suddenly talking about it. Maurice's response came a few days later, and if Pearl's post broke the internet, his reply absolutely shattered it into tiny pieces. He posted simply, "If I ever loved you, I could never destroy you." 8 words. That's all it took to send everyone spiraling. The use of loved, past tense or present tense. Was he confessing feelings? Was he speaking hypothetically? The ambiguity was maddening and brilliant at the same time. His post suggested that not only did he care about Pearl, but the idea that he would actively work to harm her was fundamentally impossible because of that care. It was romantic, it was tragic, it was the kind of statement that makes people clutch their hearts and create edits set to sad music. The internet lost its collective mind. Shipping accounts went into overdrive, creating content about their love story, and this being proof they were meant to be together. Others argued it was just a statement of friendship being misconstrued. The debate about what Maurice really meant became almost as big as the original drama itself, with literary analysis of those 8 words that would make English professors proud. The social media landscape became absolutely saturated with content about Pearl and Maurice. Every platform had its own flavor of coverage. Twitter had the hot takes and arguments, TikTok had the dramatic readings and reenactments, Instagram had the aesthetic posts and memes, and YouTube had the deep dives and commentary videos. People were creating content analyzing their body language in past interviews, looking for signs of the tension that had been building. Others made compilations of their cute moments together contrasted with the current drama. Some folks even brought in experts to discuss manipulation tactics and workplace dynamics. The discourse expanded beyond just their situation into broader conversations about trust, friendship, betrayal, and how to navigate relationships when third parties interfere. It became one of those rare moments where celebrity drama actually sparked meaningful discussions, even as it also provided endless entertainment. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone felt compelled to share it, often at great length and with passionate conviction. Behind all the public drama and internet chaos, there were real professional consequences brewing. Industry insiders started leaking information to entertainment journalists about how production companies and studios were watching this situation very carefully. Pearl and Maurice's chemistry had been considered gold, the kind of rare magic that guarantees box office success and audience investment. But now that chemistry came with baggage, drama, and unpredictability. Would they be able to work together again? Would audiences still buy them as romantic leads, or would this real-life conflict overshadow any fictional relationship? Some sources suggested that studios were hesitant to cast them together in future projects, worried that the drama would become the story rather than the actual film or show. Others argued that controversy sells and their next project together would be even more highly anticipated because everyone would be watching to see how they interact. The business side of Hollywood was calculating risk versus reward, trying to figure out whether Pearl and Maurice as a package deal was now too complicated to be worth the potential returns. The person suspected of being the third-party saboteur made things worse, or more suspicious, depending on your perspective, by posting a series of motivational quotes that seemed tone-deaf at best and incriminating at worst. Quotes about staying positive, rising above drama, and letting your success be your noise appeared on their social media, and fans immediately pounced. The timing was either incredibly unfortunate or deliberately provocative. People flooded their comments with accusations, demands for explanations, and angry messages defending either Pearl or Maurice. Some detective-minded fans even went back through months of posts looking for clues, analyzing who this person had been photographed with, whose side they seemed to be on, and whether there were patterns of manipulative behavior. The motivational quotes, intended to present an image of being above the fray, instead made them look suspicious, as if they were trying too hard to appear innocent. The criticism and blame they received was intense, though notably, neither Pearl nor Maurice directly named anyone, leaving the internet to draw its own conclusions based on circumstantial evidence and detective work that would be inadmissible in any actual court. As the days and weeks passed, the drama showed no signs of fading from public consciousness. New details kept emerging, whether leaked deliberately or accidentally, who knows, that kept the story alive. Someone would share a screenshot of an old conversation, someone else would recall a moment from the set that now seemed significant, and journalists kept finding new angles to explore. The truth continued to unfold in bits and pieces rather than one clean revelation, which honestly made it more compelling. People love a mystery, and this one had layers. Every time it seemed like the story might fade from trending topics, something new would emerge to reignite the conversation. The ongoing nature of the drama meant that people stayed invested, checking back regularly for updates, and maintaining their chosen sides with surprising loyalty. It became one of those rare entertainment stories that had real staying power because it combined genuine emotion, relatable themes of betrayal and manipulation, and just enough ambiguity to keep people guessing. At its core, though, when you strip away all the internet commentary and social media wars, this story was really about two people who got hurt by someone else's manipulation. Paul's confrontation didn't come from a place of hatred or a desire to publicly humiliate Maurice. It came from genuine pain, confusion, and a need for clarity. She'd had things that damaged her and believed they came from someone she trusted, and rather than letting that poison her silently, she demanded answers. There's something brave about that, even if the execution wasn't perfect. Maurice's response, meanwhile, was honest, perhaps too honest in revealing how he'd let doubts creep in without verification. His shock at the accusations seemed genuine, his realization of being manipulated was real, and his emotional response to Paul's final statement showed someone grappling with his own role in the situation. Neither of them was perfect in how they handled things, but their imperfection made them human. They weren't playing roles or crafting careful public personas in that moment, they were just two people trying to figure out what was true and what was manipulation. The questions that emerge from this whole saga are the kind that keep people up at night scrolling through forums and comment sections. Will Paul and Maurice reconcile, or has too much damage been done? Can trust be rebuilt after it's been shattered, especially when it was broken not by direct action but by believing lies about each other? Will the real saboteur ever be definitively exposed, or will this remain one of those Hollywood mysteries where everyone thinks they know but nobody can prove anything? How will this affect future projects? Will studios be brave enough to cast them together again? And if they do, will Paul and Maurice even want to work together after everything that happened? Will their fans ever unite again, or will Team Paul and Team Maurice remain divided territories on the internet forever? And perhaps most intriguingly, what happens to the relationship between two people who clearly had something special, whether friendship or something more, after it's been tested this thoroughly? These aren't just questions about celebrity gossip, they are questions about human nature, about how we navigate betrayal and manipulation, and whether relationships can survive external forces determined to tear them apart. So here we are, at the end of this wild ride through drama, betrayal, viral moments, and questions that might never have satisfying answers. The story of Paul Watts and Maurice isn't just about two celebrities having a conflict, it's about how easily trust can be broken when someone plants the right seeds of doubt, about how public our private pain can become in the age of recording everything, and about how sometimes the real villain isn't the person you're fighting with but the person smiling in the background watching it all fall apart. It's a reminder to question what we hear, to verify before we believe, and to have those difficult conversations directly rather than letting suspicion poison our relationships. Whether you're Team Paul, Team Maurice, or Team Can They Just Hug It Out, you're witnessing a real-time lesson in how fragile human connections can be and how easily they can be manipulated. Now it's your turn, what do you think? Can Paul and Maurice come back from this? Who do you believe? And most importantly, have you ever experienced something similar where someone tried to turn you against a friend? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button to stay updated as this story continues to unfold, and share this with someone who needs to hear about the power of direct communication and the danger of believing gossip. Trust me, this story isn't over yet, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Let's keep this conversation going, because if Paul and Maurice taught us anything, it's that silence and avoidance only make things worse, while honesty and confrontation, however messy, might just be the path to truth. Subscribe, like and comment. See you on our next video. One love guys.